Once Upon a Timeline. Welcome, everybody. Looks like there's not that many people here. I'm not sure if it's the holidays or if you guys didn't get the notification. But let's see. I've only seen two people here. So I'm not sure what's going on. James Tiberius and Life Matrix. So welcome. All right. Now it says bad stream. There's a big surprise. It's always a bad stream. Okay. So no one's here for reals, huh? That's unusual. All right, let's see. James Tiberius, good morning. Of course, the extra computers not operating properly. There's a big surprise. Anyway, tons of MEs as usual. I'm going to try not to stay up really late today. Hey, Shari D. Okay, so this one was the first one I just noticed this morning. I'm sure I covered this before, but these friggin' kangaroos getting more buffed every minute. Apparently this one likes to crush metal cans as a hobby. Roger lives in the kangaroo sanctuary, blah, blah, blah. This guy's been making the rounds. One thing extra interesting I read also today that I had not read before, which I'm quite sure was not the case before, was they're saying that the roos, the males, actually have usually or often, some places are saying, have two-pronged man parts, believe it or not. I thought that was pretty weird. I've never heard of any animals having a double one. I'm not sure if it was in this one or another one that said that, but something else to think of when you see these guys. Just crazy. All right, so there's that one. Okay, this is another one from Bob Boberton, as usual. One of my favorite input people. All right, King Arthur. Was King Arthur real? We've been talking lately about a lot of places we thought were fictional are now based on truth, or maybe it was real. This one's an interesting one because it looks like it's like halfway there. Fact or fiction, it's still open for debate. Let's see. So they have discovered some things that make it sound like King Arthur of the Round Table might have been a real guy. There was a location believed to be Camelot. Monks claim there was, let's see, what was found? The resting, a cross was recovered that had the inscription, "Here in the Isle of Avalon lies buried the renowned King Arthur, with Guinevere, his second wife." Supposedly that was found. And then also among the ruins of Tintagel Castle, a piece of pottery was found that had the following message: Artano, father of a descendant of Cole, has made this. And Artano is the archaic spelling of King Arthur's name. Okay, so they're starting to find this evidence that King Arthur was a story based on a real person. Following the way the patterns have been going, I'm almost betting that this is going to be yes. Just another thing that once was fiction is going to become fact. So we're just waiting for Atlantis and unicorns at this point. All right, let's see now. I'm not sure which page to start on, actually. Paul Nay 9, Q Coke Monty, Shari D, James Tiberius. I already got James. Are in the house. Marley Trotter. Sharks have double prongs as well. Okay, new one for me. I'm waiting for Superman to be real. Yeah. I think we're gonna all get. We're gonna see more and more of the superhuman weird strengths and stuff like that, though. I think we'll find. I don't know about flying. That might be a while. Looks like a bodybuilder. Yeah. No. They just were pretty ordinary looking in my old timeline. The only thing extra cool about them was, of course, that they hopped on 2 feet. They did not look like bodybuilders. And supposedly that was kind of the average male kangaroo there. All right. This one caught my eyes. Okay, I'm not the expert at smoking, but I do not ever recall that we could smoke through our eyeballs or vape through the eyeballs. But basically, this person is going to push smoke out the eyes. Quite a bit of it, too. Apparently, it's somewhat painful. I don't know, or feels weird, but... I'm not the complete expert, but nobody's disputing it on here. I think there was a few people kind of saying, yeah, this and that. Anyway, I don't think the connections were like that before, that you could smoke through your eyes. Could be wrong, but I'm very suspicious about one. All right, next one. People did that with milk. I've seen that recently, not lately. Okay, this is another one. We've covered this vacuuming, the new style of vacuuming recently. But apparently what this kid can do is also related to vacuuming. Interestingly, there was another vacuuming video on just earlier today, too. So that's 2 in 1 week. The vacuuming thing is really making the rounds. I've just never seen that they could do that. Yeah, you could roll the stomach around a bit, but not that tight. So again, the vacuuming. I mean, yeah, you can roll your stomach around, but sucking it in that tight, no, not in my old timeline. I mean, and you know, we actually knew a lot of belly dancer people, so they could roll their stomach, but they couldn't suck it in along the edges that tightly. All right, continuing with the fish with legs routine. For a while now, we've had some fish with those little modified front fins. And now we have a new style of those I saw today. This is the first time I saw this style. These ones are even, of course, more ridiculous. See if we can load this one. All right, so it's got these modified feet. It crawls on the bottom. Check the one behind it. I'm guessing that might be the male. It looks like a giant turkey fish. Look at the fins on that thing. I don't think they had the name on this one. I'll check again of what kind these are supposed to be. Yeah, this does not look like... Ooh. Red Sea Walkman. Closely related to true stonefishes. Blah, blah, blah. Found on sandy or silty substrates of lagoons and seaweed reefs in coastal regions. Goblin fish, sea goblin. I don't believe they were super rare or anything either. Warm tropical waters and coastal regions of Indo-Pacific oceans. Some into the subtropics. The waters off the Red Sea in Egypt, blah, blah, blah. Okay, so basically not rare. 13 to 25 centimeters, so they're pretty decent size. Anyway, first time I've seen those guys. Next time we see fish typing on computers. Yeah, wait, they're gonna come up with like a computer for octopuses next. Yeah, this looks like something from the deepest trenches. That's how all these weird fish started. And so we got used to seeing weird fish in the trenches. And interestingly, somebody had even commented, "Oh, there's so many weird fish in the deep sea." And then somebody else comes back and goes, "Oh no, that's not the deep sea. Happy Thanksgiving, turkey fish." Yeah, exactly, fish with legs. It's me. See ya. All right, let me check out some of those other fish with legs. It's just kind of a... All right, so this is the one more that I'm used to seeing here, is like this one. Let's see if it... then there's this. They started out, they were just modified front fins up here, and now... I don't think I've seen this exact one. I've seen that more of them have double feet now. Let's see if we can find out what this one is. There's so many of them now. There was just the one for a while. I think they were calling it frogfish or something. A species of frogfish, yep. True identity will not be known until examinations have finished. Frogfish are found all over the world. So those are the fish with legs. I did not used to have those in my old timeline. Yeah, they're getting more obviously leggy-like now and feet-like than when I first saw them. So it looks like a little body with feet and arms. That fin looks like a little, like hair. They weren't quite that obvious when they first came out. See, they're looking more and more like legs now. So anyway, that's frogfish. Okay, poison in the spine. Yeah, quite possibly a lot of things are poisonous in this timeline. In my old timeline, stonefish just had nasty spines, but they weren't poisonous. Okay. Oh, this one. This one is so weird. Oh, let's see if I can find this one now. This is another one. I mean, I'm not a total expert, but I'm pretty sure they couldn't do this before. There it is. All right, there's a lot of weird stuff in this timeline. It's just weird. And apparently there's this thing called belly inflation. And no, I'm not talking about eating food. Basically, they inflate, they pump air into the you-know-where nether regions until the stomach, it percolates through into the stomach and expands. And this woman... You can't see the inflation thing, but this woman is inflating her belly. Now, this is fast motion, so sped up a couple times. But still, it happens pretty quickly. I mean, this is a 1-minute video, so it's like 5 or 10 minutes to get this to happen. So this woman is supposed to be kind of an expert on it. So her belly is basically inflating. People say that they like the feel of doing this, and some people find it attractive or whatever. Anyways, somewhat dangerous. I just don't think that you could do this before without like being in the hospital, but apparently now a lot of people, I don't know what I want to call a lot, but a fair number of people do this as a hobby. It's so weird. I wouldn't have thought of it because, you know, in my old time, everybody was trying to get thinner. They weren't trying to be super fat. So you can see by her motion, she's moving at about 2 or 3 times faster. The video sped up about that much. Basically, she goes from here to here, which is totally ridiculous. It's insane. But anyway, so that's it. Belly inflation is a thing in this timeline. Yeah, why? No, some people, I was kind of reading on it, and people were saying they liked the feeling like it was the same as being pregnant. They like the feeling of being pregnant. I've never heard of anybody before saying they like the feeling of being pregnant, so it doesn't make any sense to me. I'm not going to try to understand it. I'm just observing at this point. That's all I can say. Okay, here's another one. All right, Graves' disease, also known as hyperthyroidism. What are the symptoms of Graves' disease? I think they've changed a bit. Now, I used to have a cat with Graves' disease, hyperthyroidism. Hyperthyroid just means your thyroid has gotten hyper. It's become overactive. It's the opposite of hypothyroidism. So people say they feel lethargic, they gain weight, blah, blah. That's hypothyroidism. Hyperthyroidism is something that cats often get. And sometimes you can see on humans, there'll be a goiter there. Basically, the thyroid is sometimes got a benign tumor on it, and it's creating too much thyroid hormone. It speeds up your system. You lose weight, you get skinny, and you're kind of hyper and skittish all the time. So here's the thing, though. I've never heard of this symptom, and this goes, I think, to the changes in the eyes. That used to be that it was no bone back there, and it used to be that if your eyes bulged out, you were going to die, because bulging eyes were a symptom of severe brain damage, and your brain was bulging and pushing your eyes out. But in this timeline, eyes bulge out. Some people can do it as a hobby, for fun, genetically. Also, you can get it from hyperthyroidism in this timeline. So your eyes bulge out from hyperthyroidism. All right, so like here, this woman has Graves' disease. So the story is that the inflammation of the tissues around the eye caused the eye to bulge. There just seems to be lately a number of exposure situations towards bulging eyes. They have a number of ones in cats now that can cause the eyes to look double-sized. I am quite sure that this was not a symptom of Graves' disease before, though. This was not a symptom of hyperthyroidism. I looked into it quite a bit. It's one of those things, whenever I have somebody who has it in my life, I will look into something quite a bit. And there just was not this ridiculous eye bulging thing. There's another one, signs of Graves' disease. So yeah, I don't know. I call baloney. I say that was not in my old timeline. Look at how big those eyes are. I don't know if we're supposed to be getting used to seeing these bulgy eyes things. Does Graves mean something more direct? Yeah, really. I don't know. Actually, hyperthyroidism is fairly treatable. They'll just try to knock back the thyroid a bit. Usually you're fine once they do that. There's medications that can also help with it. But anyways, it was called Graves' disease 15 years ago when I looked into it. So that is not a new name, but... So Graves' disease was on my timeline. It's just that the bulging eye symptom was not in my timeline. Neither were these people that could pop out their eyes. In my old timeline, if you had bulging eyes, you were probably close to death because it meant brain swelling. It was bad. All right, so those are all ones I found. Now we're going to get some into some other people's. All right, I've covered this one a bit in the past, but see who brought this one up. Bob Bobertson brought this one up. It's got a name now, the lightning that is in the volcanoes. And I'd mentioned last time that the lightning does come from below. It does not come from up in the sky. now it has a name. It's called Dirty Thunderstorm. And they're saying that it's electricity caused by the ash scraping together. I believe this is supposed to be a sped up motion version of. You can see this boiling here. This is not an animation. It's just a sped up video. So again, old timeline did not have lightning on the top of the volcanoes. Just noticing now, the last time I looked, I couldn't find any info on it other than just images. There was no explanation. So now we have ash rock fragments and ice particles collide with a volcanic plume. Apparently they scrape together. They make electricity. Ice particles collide instead of ice crystals. All right, so there we have it. The name is now Dirty Thunderstorm, at least for now. Okay. This is one. Who mentioned this one? Oh, Bob Bobertson mentioned this one. It's not there on every map, but he's right on a lot of maps. And if you look at your globe, it's definitely very much there on the globe. Last time I checked into this, and it was probably 1 or 2 years ago, but I don't think it's changed a ton. Australia, as many of you remember, used to be way down south by itself. But when I found out about the ME, Australia was still the furthest south. It was still, it's still kind of down under. Quit that. But now, if you look at it, it's not the furthest south anymore. South America is now the furthest south by a good stretch. It looks like it's gotten kind of, I don't know, it seems like things got squished this way, and Australia is a little further east or something, or pushed up. It looks like Australia has moved a little to the east, so it's not directly under things as much as it was. This region here has gotten a lot bigger since I've been watching overall, but it used to be tiny compared to Australia, but anyway, so Australia is not even the furthest south anymore. Just wanted to bring that one up. All right, this is another Bob Bobertson one. He remembers the same as me, the holiday called President's Day. President's Day was the combination of 2 birthdays. I definitely remember they said it's 2 presidential birthdays, so it was the combo. Instead of having just one, they had 2. But that's not quite the case anymore. Okay, it used to be the combo. I can't swear on what the birthdays were, but Bob remembers them as Washington and Lincoln, which makes sense. Third Monday in February is frequently referred to as President's Day. So which is it? We get to the bottom of what's official and what's not. So apparently it's just celebration of Washington's now. Dang, I read this last week. It unofficially became known as President's Day. To me, it was always President's Day. I don't know what the unofficial business is. But apparently here it's actually Washington's birthday. It was never President's Day. That's just unofficial. Then they moved it to a Monday. Okay, so the President's Day misnomer. Today, the nation typically combines Washington's birthday with President's Day, celebrating both days on the third Monday in February. However, President's Day is not the official name of the holiday. It was always President's Day for me. The U.S. government never officially changed the name. Blah, 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 blah. Anyway, the one thing I'm sure is that it was considered 2 different birthdays together. But now the birthdays are 10 days apart. I think that might be why that the birthdays have shifted a little bit. Anyway, a small one, but so here's this thing where let's call it Washington's birthday again. It wasn't. It was 2 different presidents' birthdays. It was not Washington's birthday before. Not for me. All right, more weird World War II stuff. There's one in particular that I think is new, and this is another Bob Bobertson one. U.S. Originally, there were no attacks on U.S. soil during World War II, and then you started hearing about that one, little one off of the coast of California. Now, I live on California, so I know that there were no freaking Japanese attacks here. In fact, it was kind of chuckled at through most of my life that, we thought Japan would get all the way over here, and we were so paranoid, but it was ridiculous. It's too far. They never got to the coast of California, but we set up all these lookouts, and everybody was all paranoid. And it was just kind of like snickered at that we were so paranoid over something that never happened. But in this timeline, it happened. There was a number of attacks. This is one, the Duquesne spy ring. This is sort of a terrorist plan. 30 men and women snuck over here. They were supposed to perform terrorist attacks, but one of them turned over allegiance and blabbed, and so they were caught. This is the bombing of Elwood Field. This is the one that was about a year or two ago showed up, and this is off the coast of California. Japanese sub lobbed a couple bombs on the coast here. Didn't do too much damage. Let's see. I think that's the same one. Blah, blah, blah. All right. Nope. Come on, computer. Stay with me. The bombing of Fort Stevens. Oh, I think is that the different one? All right, I think that's the one. The Japanese submarine I-25 made its way to the mouth of the Columbia River. This is the one I have that seems more new to me. It surfaced near Fort Stevens. And it started lobbing bombs. The people in Fort Stevens decided not to return fire because they felt that the muzzle flashes would betray the location of the fort in the dark. So they just said to hold still and don't fire back, and most of the bombs didn't make it. I-25 would later make history again when it executed the first ever bombing of the continental United States by an enemy aircraft, which what became known as the Lookout Air Raids, returned to the Oregon. So this was on the Oregon coast. Okay, so then later it returned in September 42 and launched a float plane. The float plane dropped a pair of incendiary bombs in the hopes of starting a forest fire. The bombs failed to have the desired effect, as did a second bombing over Brookings later that month. The pilot of the Japanese float plane, Nobuo Fujita, would later make several goodwill visits to Brookings, blah, 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 after the war. Okay, so there was 2 attacks here in Oregon, apparently, or 3. The bombing of Fort Stevens, and then 2 planes also attacked from this. Let's see, what was that? So it was a sub, but I'm not sure. Like, somehow it launched float planes. I've not really heard of that one. All right, here's another one that attempted fire bombings. I think they were supposed to be each carried up to 80 foreign cash and explosive to wage a long campaign of sabotage. This one was shut down as well. And then these fire balloons, these have been around for a while, like 3 or 4 years, where they've tried to float balloons of fire over the U.S. So that's an older ME. But anyway, so the new one is this Oregon ones. So there's been a number of attacks in Oregon, too, to go along with the California one, the Black Tom explosion in the Statue of Liberty. So slowly, there's more and more little bitty attacks against the U.S. Like I said, there didn't used to be any. All right. All right, so we've covered some of this stuff before, but the number of animals that can reproduce now without a male, I did a video on it a while back. It was just a couple fish at that time. Now we've got sharks. Sharks don't need a male to reproduce. Reptiles. Now we've got some birds. This one's new. I have never heard that chickens and turkeys can use parthenogenesis to fertilize their eggs. Unlike reptiles, avian parthenogenesis has evolutionary benefits. It's most typically observed in younger hens who have lower levels of age-related genetic damage and can therefore produce more viable young. Birds also produce non-identical replicas. All right, this is the first I'm hearing about parthenogenesis with non-identical replicas. I'm not sure how this works. I'm going to have to study this because I'm just used to the XY chromosomes. This timeline has a lot more variations on the chromosomes. So apparently these turkeys and chickens can clone themselves, but they're not exact clones, but there's no male DNA either. So I don't know how that's working. Because when I first was researching the parthenogenesis, when it was first showing up, it was always clones. They would just make clones of each other. So now there's a lot more animals, and it's not just clones. And they're claiming that there is some kind of evolutionary advantage. So that's the first time I've heard of that. Also, somewhere in one of these little things, it mentioned pigeons, that some rumors have it that pigeons can also do parthenogenesis. So, along with all these sharks, hammerheads, black-tip sharps, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, just weird. So those are ones who don't need a male. Somewhere in here there was also one instance of a male that didn't need a female, and it was a fish. They just kind of mentioned it really quick. For some reason, I swear I had it written down. Oh, okay, it's probably in this one. So when I first saw this parthenogenesis, I looked into it quite a bit. There was no turkeys and chickens involved in that storyline. Now there is. This is another one that's been making headlines. Actually, I think that the parthenogenesis was me, and I noticed it because I was looking into this other one, and this other one is from Stand Up for Freedom, who's another commenter on the channel. Stand Up for Freedom found this one, and when I was looking into this one, I saw that chickens parthenogenesis thing. All right, this one's making the headlines lately. researchers made mice with two dads. Somehow it just doesn't seem shocking at all, considering we've already got the Parthenogenesis kind of taking over. I think it's only a matter of time before the whole immaculate conception is accepted as happening with humans. Because in my timeline, that was considered a miracle, impossible, ridiculous, blah, blah, blah. But now with all this parthenogenesis and non-identical replicas and stuff, it doesn't even seem all that real weird, especially at least with cloning. And I think that now with the non-identical parthenogenesis, it just doesn't even seem that weird that a human might do it. I mean, if all these other mammals can do it, why is it a big deal if humans do it? This is interesting because it's like the findings help explain why mammals can't reproduce with only a single parent. Except for there's a whole crap load of animals that can do it. Also may explain why those animals that can reproduce alone, such as some amphibians, are almost always female. So there's the trick I noticed right there. Almost always. Last time I checked, it was always, not almost always. All right, I don't think it was in here, but they said that Dano vario is known to reproduce with males alone. But they mentioned kind of vaguely that under certain aquarium conditions. And I looked, and I couldn't. Okay, here's only one fish, Dano vario, is known to reproduce with males alone, and only in certain laboratory conditions. Now, I looked, and I could not find what these laboratory conditions are. Now, you'd think this would be pretty interesting if only one creature can do it, but I could not figure out what those conditions are. But I think definitely keep your eye on this. I think we're going to find that the male reproduction is going to be a thing now that the female one is established. Reproduce with males alone. I just don't get how that's going to happen since they don't have reproductive organs. That's why I really looked into this. Dano rario, I believe that is zebra Dianio too. Danio rario. It's not some weird fish. This is your classic. This is just a really straightforward, old school aquarium fish, zebra danios. So here they for a while they were injecting them with dyes for making them colored. Anyway, they're a hardy, common aquarium fish, zebra danios. So anyway, just keep an eye on that. I think that we're going to see a lot more of that. All right, this one's another Bob Bobertson one. I saw this one 6 months ago. He brought it up again, and it is a good one to cover. Rainbows are actually circles when viewed from above. I've seen this one for a while now, but I don't think that was the case before. So this is what you see from above. You see a whole circle. Anyway, rainbows are so common now. Double rainbows. And you get this thick, dark area between the double rainbows. Double rainbows are really rare for me. The second one was very faint usually and didn't have this thick and dark area. See, again, with this is really growing. This was interesting here. It's the darkened areas in the center. I don't think I've seen that one yet. That's interesting with the consecutive rings. I think that's going to be that glory thing, also a new thing for me. Take a quick gander here and see if anything new in the rainbow department is coming up. Full circle rainbows. Okay. Anyway. looking at history again, it's gotten so weird. I really don't recognize some of this history at all. What was the last battle of the American Revolutionary War? Apparently, it was in India. Now, I don't remember any battles or anything being fought in India. I don't remember India having anything to do with anything. Anyway, so apparently after we were supposed to have a ceasefire, there was more battles still in India. After the defeat at Yorktown, King George III brushed it off as a minor stumbling block and decreed that the war in America should continue. Do what I can to save the empire. George Washington never knew it would be considered the end of the war, or famously, the last battle of the American Revolutionary War. He smartly assumed the British were certainly wounded, but they wouldn't quit. The war would continue. Washington felt it was his absolute duty to keep the Continental Army together until there was a final peace treaty. Okay, so Battle of Yorktown was always considered the last battle, but it now wasn't. Big surprise. There were at least 44 more documented worldwide battles, sieges, actions, incidents, and skirmishes of the American Revolutionary War. So, both Great Britain and France had colonies in India. When France declared war against Britain, the British East India Company, who had its own soldiers, decided to attack the other French colonies in India. The British government told the company that they would also send some British Army regulars to India. So it was in the summer of 1783, halfway around the world, the Siege of Cuddalore. Anyway, you can look into it more. But, yeah, no, I don't think so. No. All right, this one I saw recently on Reddit. The desert is getting less desert-like. That's not how you spell that. It's like I spelled it wrong before. What the heck? It means in the desert. This is another one. I can't swear I'm an expert on the desert, but I really don't think that this was the case before. So this is when it rains in the desert. Apparently it turns into this giant lake thing. They're saying that the desert is not very porous and water just builds up and becomes like this lake. I mean, I've certainly heard of flash floods, but not in very sandy regions. It's like we have flash floods around here on hard-packed soil. They're usually coming off the mountains. They don't spread that far on the flatlands, at least in my old timeline. But here there's just flatlands, acres and acres of, looks like a couple feet of water, like a lake. There's been a lot of just weird stuff in the desert lately. This one is interesting because there's people on here that are like, oh yeah, this always happens. People just don't realize it. And then other people coming on here saying, I lived in this region, never heard of it, never saw it. So it's kind of a clash on there. Of course, the old you're all just uneducated thing always has to come up. All right, this one is a really weird one for me. More biblical stuff. You don't have to be a Bible scholar to remember what Jesus was supposed to do for a living before he went on his teachings and became the prophet. So was Jesus a carpenter? So now they're saying that if you look at the original translations, and of course not very many people actually can translate the original, so this can change, and 99.99% of the population are not going to have any way to verify if the original non-English version has changed. So they're saying now that the word used for the word that described Jesus' job is not properly translated as a carpenter, and more likely he was a stone mason. So they're saying that the word translates to something like builder, and that most building and construction in that region at that time were stonemasons. And then his dad supposedly was a stonemason also, so it makes sense that he would be a stonemason. So apparently in this timeline, Jesus was a stonemason. He wasn't a carpenter. So another example of everything you ever learned was wrong, and now apparently, supposedly, just now they figured it out. Let's see. The word was tecton. Tecton was the word that they're using, that they said was used to translate to carpenter. And then they're pointing at all the parables that Jesus uses the word stone. And they're saying, oh, well, that's why he was always talking about stones, because he was a stonemason. Anyway, so Jesus apparently is no longer a carpenter. Let's see what's up with all the chit-chat here. Kind of running along without checking. Cooking all day tomorrow with family. Yeah, I thought maybe everybody was out. I actually took a nap. So I'm kind of spaced out. I woke up like minutes before the stream. I got to get up really early tomorrow again. Oh, I didn't want to have like no sleep. No, carpenter trying to make Jesus a mason. Yeah, well, pretty much. I don't know. It's just weird. Like, why change everything? Every little historical thing. You know, then you're going to hear, there are any stonemasons here tonight. You know, it's probably going to go into that whole Masonic thing now. I don't know. Everything is Masonic in this timeline, it seems like. Masons just weren't a thing in my old timeline. Originally, like 15 years ago, it was not a thing. 2 of the moons are called dust bunnies. 2 of the moons are called, we now have 3 moons. 2 of the moons are called dust bunnies. Mrs. J, I think you are incorrect. We have 4 moons. We have 2 of the dusty clouds called moons. We have one of the big moon that we're used to, and then we have one big asteroid blob thing that they sometimes call a moon, which is called the second moon. So we've got a lot of moons. Australia used to be more west. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. It looks like it's kind of gotten squished, and well, I guess that would be your way, and then pushed to the side. Australia's too close to Asia. Yeah, I agree, but that one's an older ME, so. Just most recently, though, I do remember it still being the southernmost. Washington, Lincoln for President's Day. Yeah. So now it's just Washington's birthday only. Lincoln's birthday was like 10 days away now, so maybe that's why it had to change. I recall it just being like 3-4 days apart. Anyone here where our solar system was really from another universe merging with the Milky Way? Huh, Mrs. J. Let's see. Let's check that out. Yeah, that, never heard of that one before. I'm not really seeing it, but I might not be typing any things in right. We're halfway in now, so I mean, when we're in the outskirts, you could say that we got stolen or kind of fell into it, but that would be hell of a merge because we're halfway in. But you know, who knows what they're saying now? There were several Japanese attacks to Canada and the U.S. Shari D. Yeah, I think I remember they were saying recently there was one up in northwest Canada, way up in the islands up there. Yeah, we didn't have that one either. It was about 6 months ago or something that I heard about that. So, yeah, that's the other thing with President's Day. It was never formally called President's Day now. That's really not the name of it. It's actually Washington's birthday. Mrs. J, I've heard our galaxy is merging with the second galaxy, and currently a dwarf star is orbiting our star. I don't think that's mainstream yet, that dwarf star. Are we the only ones noticing this mayhem? Not a lot of people are noticing. I have noticed in some of the other conspiracy circles, they're noticing some of the same things that we're noticing, but they're blaming it on other things. For instance, I've been talking a lot lately about how all the old history is changing. Oh, President's Day is not President's Day. Jesus is not a carpenter. That's just for today, but just about every week I've got some of these. I think I covered a few weeks back that a lot of the old psychology experiments are now all being discredited. I mean, these are experiments that were just canon and absolutely studied and researched in every university for 50 or 60 years. And now, oh, that never really happened like that. And was misreported. But not just one, but like all of them. Like we misreported everything ever, apparently. So I was watching on a conspiracy Reddit, a conspiracy subreddit, and they were saying people, they're just kind of blaming it on like people trying to take over our history and rewrite everything. They're saying, oh, look, everybody needs to save their old history textbooks because the new writings all are saying that never happened. And so these people are assuming the old histories are the correct histories or more correct. And the new ones are some kind of secret government deep state plot or something like that. They don't realize that the old texts are also changing. So saving the old texts will not save you. But they are noticing all of this in the news, these patterns that, what the heck, why is it that they're now discrediting everything all across the board? Just some of these things, what's the even point? I mean, what would be the point of changing President's Day to Washington's birthday? I think the only reason that's being done is because Washington's birthday now has diverged too much from Lincoln's, and it no longer makes as obvious a sense for them to be one birthday. And maybe Lincoln's birthday will diverge further. I don't know, but I think that's the reasoning behind it. I mean, some of these, there's just no real obvious government advantage to any of it, or some of it, so. But anyway, yeah, I think we might start to see some conspiracies on this Jesus was a Mason, because now, you've got the Masonic thing and everything. The Allies are in bad shape now in this timeline, Shari D. Yeah, and for a while, the USA was really taking a back seat in history for a while. It's been jumping around, but there was a while that we had very little influence in Hawaii, and we totally took a back seat when it came to winning the war, and Russia was the first in. And now that's kind of moderated a little bit. Now we're sort of in the middle, but the U.S. is not as strong as it once was in my old timeline, in the history of my old timeline. And the U.K. is a lot stronger here. They've got more colonies, and their flag is in more places. So that really kind of, I don't know, it's history, it's the past, so who cares that much, but it is still freaky. Anybody come from a world where silicon microbial life was discovered? Nope, not for me. When we start seeing half human, half crocodile, nobody will question it. Now I think that could happen. I think that this whole birth defects, and we're just kind of getting inoculated to seeing these weirder and weirder looking humans. I'm not sure what the point to that is. I mean, obviously there's many conspiracy theories about aliens and stuff that you could jump to. I really don't know. I really don't. Everything keeps changing. Some days some MEs flip flop back the way they were, so it's all so strange. Yes, I've definitely seen some that just stay for a matter of hours even. They flip one way, then they're gone. It's just weird. I mean, I don't know if they keep making little changes and certain things can go, they have a 50% chance of going one way or the other depending on tiny little things. Each change, it just doesn't seem super orderly because it's not, if it keeps bouncing like that, that's what kind of gets me. Now, other things do seem to be very progressive, like the anatomy changes. I have not seen anything flip-flop in an anatomy change. It seems very methodical. So maybe there are certain things that are the main priority, and then the after effects are causing some of these other flip-flops. But yeah, certain things. Also, the geology. I have not seen any geology flip-flops. That also seems really methodical. So I don't know. Maybe that's another clue. It actually just occurred to me. How is Eva doing? She has the cold. No, you know what? I was kind of sick on Sunday, but I feel fine right now. Have you done any research on what is happening to our sun? Not specifically. I mean, obviously it's a lot brighter. We haven't fried like pieces of bacon, so somehow the whole universe and the atmosphere and our biology must be adapting, because if you use our old concepts that we had before we knew of the Mandela effect, I mean, if the sun got way brighter, we'd all be dead. I mean, the whole climate would be burnt off and the atmosphere would be burnt off and all that. And none of that has happened. So I don't know what's going on with it, but I think it has to be metaphysical. There's just no conventional explanation for how that could happen without any major side effects. They have come out and made the white sun official. Yeah. That one's flip-flop back and forth about what they call the sun. For a while they were saying it was still a yellow sun, but they were just calling it like a categorization. They're saying they have different storylines that it appears that color because of the atmosphere, blah, blah, blah. See what they're calling it today. What category of star is the sun? Our sun is a dwarf star. Yellow dwarfs are small main sequence stars. The sun is a yellow dwarf. Ooh, it's yellow again. This is what keeps changing for me. Last I checked, it was a white dwarf. It's back to a yellow dwarf. Now, this is a flip-flopper for me. I've seen this one flip-flop several times. Sometimes it's a white dwarf. Sometimes it's a yellow dwarf. All right, so it's a yellow dwarf now. Let's see. Is our sun a white dwarf? Let's see if it agrees. Let's look up white dwarfs and see what it says. I just want to verify. All right, so no, we're not a white dwarf. All right. Yeah, that one keeps changing. I cry uncle on that one. So I don't know. They have made the sun official. They are calling it a yellow dwarf again. I certainly would forgive you for being confused because I swear it was a white dwarf last I checked. The real sun is behind it and is still yellow. I don't know. See, everything else has been supernaturally changed. So looking for conventional explanations is something that I have somewhat given up on. I just don't think there is one. I mean, any conventional explanation, there couldn't be two suns. We'd fry again like bacon. Any of their conventional assumptions would not hold that that would be possible. So therefore, it has to be that everything is completely different than we were told. Are we going to have exploding people? Yes, but well, we've already got that spontaneous combustion rumor. Does nobody here call it an 8-track? You mean those tapes? The 8-track tapes. I remember 8-track tapes. Do we not have 8-track tapes anymore? I mean, that was in the 70s, I think we had those. 8-track tape lot of 30. From 1964 to 88. Okay, yeah, that's still the same. Approximately, anyways. Last I heard, the sun was basically a green-based star. Not sure on that one. Have not heard that one. Perhaps the sun has not changed. Perhaps the cones in our eyes got affected. A dark wolf's den. Yeah, I've actually wondered that more specifically about the night sky looking white or lighter. Did the night sky really change, or did our eyes' ability to scavenge light change? And they've always said, like, say, cats can it's the rods that do the night vision. The rods in some animals' eyes are a lot better than ours, and they can scavenge more light. So if our eyes change, then we could get more light at night, and things could look differently. So I have no idea how I'd sort that out, but all right. So where was I? Okay. This is. I'm not going to bring up the video because it's gross, but people were talking about tonsil stones being in a Mandela effect. I agree. There were no tonsil stones in my timeline. Totally disgusting. Apparently, they're quite common, though. Well, I just saw a thing on Reddit a couple days ago. We also have salivary stones now. So they're under the tongue. They look like they're similar to the tonsil stones. The area gets swollen up, and there's a big freaking stone, and like the one they yanked out was big, and they get a tweezers and they yank it out from the salivary gland. This person was just doing it in their bathroom mirror. Totally disgusting, giant stone. So we have this whole calcified stone thing seems to be on a run, because now they're in the salivary glands as well as the tonsils. Apparently not that dangerous unless it gets infected. Anyway, so more gross stone things. This one. Oh. All right. You might have to be a native Californian to really notice this or have followed this, but a while back, a lot of trees were dying, pine trees and stuff, and they said it was due to these bark beetles that bore into the trunk and killed trees. Of course, there was the giant scare tactic that our whole forest would be ruined, blah, blah, blah. One thing that was very much the storyline at that time was that these beetles, these bark beetles, were invasive pests, and we had no defense against them, and that was part of the whole scary story that what are we going to do? These things are taking over. Well, I was reading a few days ago, and now they're saying that the bark beetles are native to here. They've always been here. They've got different names for them. There's more than one kind. And they're saying just that recent weather alterations have caused them to have a very big outbreak of these beetles. But they've always been here. And that's wrong. They weren't always here. They were an invasive pest. So, again, with the storyline shifting, as it turns out, I guess I'm not surprised at this point, but they did not take over everything. Some trees died, but most trees are fine. I'm worrying less and less about these scare tactic things because the storyline just changes and somehow everything always ends up fine. And this bark beetle is another example of that. So anyway, Californians, bark beetles are now native. And see, the thing is, we've had bad droughts before, and bark beetles did not take over the universe 15 years ago from a bad drought. It's just recently. So, whatever. All right, this is a weird one. Somebody, Evie Noall, or Noall, Noall, brought up this. She was asking about these Christmas Eve boxes. I've never heard of it. Apparently, it's becoming a big UK thing. In UK, they're saying the Americans are doing it. As an American, I'll tell you, I've never heard of it before this week. And I looked it up, and then they're saying it was from Germany. Germans did it. I don't know. Are there any Germans? I haven't been able to find any Germans who've ever really heard of this Christmas Eve box. So basically, on Christmas Eve, you give people a box of stuff as gifts. A lot of it can be stuff that you'll need the next day, like maybe candles or stuff like that. Like kind of, I don't know, holiday tradition for kids. I mean, there are saying it's a new trend, but I'm getting kind of suspicious because a lot of these things that change, and then the UK people think the Americans did it, and the Americans think the UK people did it, and where did it even come from, tracking it back. That's kind of why I'm kind of curious if there's any Germans who end up watching the show. Is this a thing from your country? Growing trend for Christmas 2018 and easy to do. They are becoming more popular. See, supposedly they were around before. That's what's weird. Filled with sweet items, perfect for a child on Christmas. Yeah, but then they're not just saying it's for children. They're saying, get your husband these. Festive slippers. I don't know. Anyway, so there it is. More stuff you're supposed to buy, basically, but... Never heard of a Christmas. It's a Christmas Eve box. In the UK, we have stockings. Yes, stockings are old school for us. Whatever, if it is good, we did it. Germans, come on, that is not helping us out with this research. Never knew it as a trend. Dark Wolf's Den. Wait, let's see what the rest of yours... Wait, me and some roommates did this a couple years ago, a special delivery from Santa. Yeah, no, it's supposed to be an actual thing, not just you guys were being nice. Interestingly, my mother had a thing where she would let us open one Christmas present early. That was I think she mostly just did it to shut us up so we would quit whining. I mean, she never said that it was any official thing. It was just something that she would do. Not stockings here where I live. Yeah, USA does the stockings. All right, so. All right, this one was from Anna Morabito. Now, this one, we've heard like the horses sitting down, now like dogs, and cows laying down. And I've gotten a fair amount of corroboration on this, that horses and cows are doing this more. People who live near horses and stuff used to be, if you saw a horse laying down, that was a sign of illness, and it was a big deal, and people would run over there. What's wrong with my horse? Now they'll just do it because they're sleepy. But they're doing a new thing now, increasing their dog-like behavior. Apparently, these guys, see if this one will do it. They can scratch their head now with their back foot. Look like a dog. Have you ever seen a horse do that? So apparently they've always been able to do this, of course. I've never seen it. It was somebody who hangs out with horses a lot has noticed this. They saw a horse doing it. Okay, looks like a cow can do it too now. Not as effective as the horse, but... So they couldn't quite do this before. They just weren't dexterous enough. They didn't have the reach. But yeah, in this timeline, they're like dogs. So anyway, a new weird thing. Here we do cow tipping. Yeah, cow tipping is so weird because there was always, I could never decipher it was real or not in my old timeline. So I don't have an answer to that. Different people would tell. Some people said it was real, but they'd never done it. Other people said that they would just tell people they went cow tipping, but you couldn't really tip a cow. They wouldn't fall over. I could never get to the bottom of that one. I even asked people online, and I couldn't get a straight answer. I'd love to see a giraffe do that. All right, let's see. Let's see if it's findable. Blink. There's a little horse doing it. Let's just look at images first and see if we can find anything. You know, what they can do with their head now with all that flailing, they didn't do that in my old timeline. So I would not be shocked. Look, there's a lot of images of other animals doing it. Nope, I'm not finding it. However, I would not be shocked if they could, or they will soon. Because they can move their head way down there now. I mean, they could probably just move their head right down to their back foot. My old timeline, they had to be... That head was sort of like a chimney stack or something. They had to kind of carry it around carefully. It was a little bit delicate. Now they flail it around like a whip. They slam it around. This is a way more impressive structure than it used to be. Way more. All right, so where are we here? This one is just comical. A lot of stuff coming out lately about Hitler was apparently quite a good artist, painted paintings. Apparently, Saddam Hussein now wrote a romantic novel that you can buy on Amazon. It just sounds like a joke, but nope, you can really go there. The novel is called Zabiba and the King. You can buy English translation on Amazon. Apparently, the novel is terrible, but anyway, I don't know what's up with the dictators and the art, but apparently, dictators like art in this timeline. I don't know, just weird, weird. Zabiba and the King. There it is. I swear, you know, it's like an April Fool's joke or something. But nope, best I can tell, it's real. All right, I'm halfway done. All right, let's see. All right, this is another one from Bob Bobertson. This one is kind of old, but it's made it to a higher level than I've seen in a while. I'm sure that people have brought this up before, and I've seen some of this at the Salton Sea near me. It's been incubating for a while. But to this extent, I have not seen it. And that's this calcified animals. Supposedly they fall into Lake Natron, and then it calcifies them. So these animals supposedly were in the lake, and they were picked up and then posed for these photos. Now, there's a few things that confuse me. This is not in a dead animal position whatsoever. Now, these are supposed to be stiff, frozen, calcified things. But, I mean, he did not... This is an animal sitting on a perch. It's not a dead animal. You're not in this position and then freeze this way and then get calcified. And the feet are all wrapped nicely around the perch. I mean, how could this even be? It should be all flat, like, you know, a corpse position, not this position. Here's another one, again, slightly more possible. But look, the claws are wrapped nicely around the branch again. They wouldn't be, they'd be, this one maybe if it was flat on the other side. This one, again, just... So these are all calcified animals now. Again, this one I think is upside down because it's a hanging bat. The claws are right around the branch again. I don't think that it would calcify. Again, here's another one. It's not going to calcify in that position sitting on a branch. Here's another one. Anyway, I'm really suspicious about this whole thing, but the whole calcified animals things has been developing for a number of years, so I'm going to put it up here. I don't know what their storyline is going to be about how those feet are all perfect like that, though. I don't think so. And I've covered this a bit. Other animals walking on 2 feet. It's getting... So this dog, I just don't remember dogs being this good at this. I mean, poodles are better at it than most animals. So the premise of this video is that they have to kind of abuse the animals to train them to do this. These animals are just a lot better at it than... it's just... I don't know how to describe it. It's just they're just a little bit too good at it. I've shown like some of the gorillas and stuff can do it quite effectively now. So they're saying it was abusive training that teaches these animals to do this. Just something to keep an eye on. I think it's a subtle variation. I just don't remember dogs being able to walk in quite that human-like a gait. Very suspicious to me. Yeah, it looks like a child. The gait, there's something about the gait is not quite right. I don't care how much training you do, the gait is just different. There's just something different about it. That one's from Bob Bobertson again. This is another one. We've had these big thunderstorms. They've started naming the thunderstorms. Now, people have just kind of noticed lately. Since when did they start naming the thunderstorms? Apparently, it's been quite some time now. See, when was the date? Darn it. Shoot, I had this up before, but now I can't find it. Why do we name thunderstorms? It takes a hurricane status to get a name for a storm in the United States. But powerful storms of other types may soon be getting names too. Dang, I just looked this up a few weeks ago. That's not what they were saying. They were saying it was like 10 years that they've been doing it. I'm not sure if this flip-flopped or I just am not finding my old source, but I checked on this and they said, oh, we started that and blah, blah, blah. Decided to introduce a storm naming system following the St. Jude's Day. Okay, 2013 here. So 5 years now. Anyways, just interesting. Once you start naming something, you're pretty much setting the way for it to be bigger and more impressive. I just think it's interesting. It doesn't mean a lot by itself, but that is something that kind of snuck under my radar, and that was from AH, a commenter on my channel. Notice that the thunderstorms are getting named, so good observation. All right. Certainly, we've seen some storms that are beyond normal. I think this one might have been brought up a long time ago. I'm not sure if I've covered it. Sometimes I have too many of these in my head. All right, African gray parrots. When did they get that red on their tail? They were, African grays were just gray and white before, no bright red tails. So now apparently they have a bright red tail. Their name made sense before because they were gray parrots, but now, no. I guess it still makes sense, but yeah, they did not have this red thing. This is from Jay Emblin, another commenter on the channel who's been around for a while. Anyway, it's pretty striking. Definitely did not have a red tail. I think that's an older ME, like a couple years. You can see when they spread out their tail, it's pretty striking too. All right, this one just kind of fits with our time, I guess. This one was Bob Bobertson. So apparently, this is probably like in progress, but it looks like this is going to be the trend. There's basically saying that there's a lot of evidence that Abraham Lincoln was probably gay. He wrote this poem, this and that. They basically follow his life story and they make a pretty good case for it. I mean, you can read it on your own. Abraham Lincoln, A Life in the Closet. I have a feeling that it's probably going to go this route, the way they're writing about it and the way trends have been following. They talk about guys he was close with. He wasn't really close with women. Of course, they're saying it's controversial, but I think we'll find in the coming years that they're going to come out with this story. This is going to be the new story. So anyway, you've heard it here first, or nearly first anyway. Okay, this is the one that is on the thumbnail.
You've got some other stories as well coming out of Aussie.
Oh, have we?
Cut that out. Okay, I want to jump to the part that's... All right, here we go. So what's going on with all this foam? Okay, so basically the storyline now... I first saw this, it was considered a freak thing. But the storyline now is that if the ocean is churned a lot, it'll make foam. And the foam is made from algae, which or other plant materials that they're saying contain surfactants. Surfactants is the same thing that makes soap soapy. So they're saying the algae is kind of like a natural soap. And if the ocean churns a lot, you will get this sea foam. So on the thumbnail, you're seeing a family that was swimming in the ocean. So it's just basically algae soap. So the ocean has turned into like a big washing machine, basically. This wasn't in my old timeline. Occasionally we'd have a little bit of foam on the water, but they always said it was due to pollution. And I'd asked about this many times. Why do some areas have foam? Just a little bit. And it's pollution, and natural areas don't have any foam, and it's icky, blah, blah, blah. But apparently now it's totally natural, and the foam is from algae, usually, that has been churned like soap. All right. And that was from Bob Bobertson again. R.I.P. in the flesh. All right. The stray cat is out meowing, and it's raining, so I'm going to go get my cat, sort of my cat. Just give me a second. Let me figure out what door the cat is at. I'll be right back. Kitty! All right, I'm getting it. Come in. Don't be all feisty. Here, you're going on video, kitty. There's my kitty. Let me see if you can see him. Can you see the kitty? This is him. He's a funny one because he purrs while he's struggling to get away because he's sick of you. The cat is interrupting Mean Kitty, but it is raining, and he was outside. There's another little house on my property, and my friend lives there, and he's supposed to sleep over there. I don't know why he's not over there, but he's been sitting here for 10 minutes meowing, and I kept thinking he would go back over to his side, but no, he's over here meowing, and it's raining, so. Gay as in happy. Odin Lush. No, not that kind of gay. All right. So, here we go. Fafnir. Yeah, he's not that big, but he's very long cat. He's got a long legs. He's a nice kitty. He's a kitty. You know how they are. They want what they want when they want it. It's not like he's gonna rip your face off or anything, but I don't know. He's all feisty today. Usually he's snoozing by now. I don't know why he's out here bugging me. Check out Torpedo Alley. Let me just check that out real quick. Kitty's gonna get busted. He's on the table now. Wait, now I'm gonna have to really yell at Kitty. Oh, he's psychic. He heard me talking about him, and he gets off of where he's not supposed to be. This is why he's not supposed to be in here, because he's a big pain in the kitty. All right. After the video, after I'm done streaming, I'll sneak over to the other house, and I'll throw him in there. All right, Torpedo Alley. Graveyards of the Atlantic Ocean, named for the high number of attacks on Allied. I don't think I really remember that, but I'm not an expert on sunken wrecks. Almost 400 ships were sunk, mostly during the second. That cat, what are you doing? You're going to start hating this cat. This keeps up. That cat is never in here this late. I've never had to deal with him this late. Kitty. He's just all, you know how kitties are sometimes when they're just all wired up and feisty? He's that way today. Usually by nighttime he's snoozing and lazy, but tonight he's like running around, jumping on the walls. All right, anyways, I don't see anything special about Torpedo Alley. I didn't know about it, but like I said, that's just not my area. I'm not as good at the tech as I am with the natural stuff, so I don't cover tech as much as some of the other channels because they knew it better. All right, so let's see, where are we? All right, this one. Now, I've reported on this one in the past. It's been like 3 years ago that I saw this, where the two different waters meet. They no longer mix. They just stay on their separate sides. And I don't know, I got a lot of blowback on it when I said I thought this was weird. And this one, Bob Bobertson brought it up again, and I still think it's weird. I agree with him. This is where the Mississippi River, mixes in with Gulf of Mexico with the Mississippi. See, what's weird here, you see these boats up here, they've crossed the region. The waters don't mix. In my old timeline, there would be maybe blue over here and greenish over here. In the middle would be slowly combining. There wouldn't be a demarcation that stayed like this, especially not after boats slosh through it and stuff. This just, I don't know. I guess it goes in with the saline rivers under the ocean and all this other weird stuff. But the waters don't mix now. They just stay like this for all. Just weird. I don't know what to say, but it's just, how come these aren't mixing? I guess, I'm sure there's some scientific explanation, but they used to. They used to mix. I could see if you put, it was osmosis, there would be, where there was more molecules here and less molecules here, they would diffuse across. Diffusion, that was it, not osmosis. Diffusion. There was always diffusion, so I don't get how come they don't mix now. Kitty is sat down in his heated cat bed, so maybe he's satisfied. It's actually not that cold right now. It's just a little bit. He's got a heated cat bed, so if he's cold, he could sit in it. So anyway, it's not just here on the Mississippi River. I've seen this in other places too, that the waters don't mix. Okay, another one by Bob Bobertson. Shoot, I'm not finding the original. I'm not finding my original one, but there's a whole bunch of ones. These Chinese pyramids did not exist in my old timeline. There's a crap load of them. I think it was like 400 Chinese pyramids. They're saying that the Chinese tried to keep it a secret, but I mean that's a big fat pyramid. We've got satellites. I think we would have noticed. 1947, a U.S. pilot saw these. He estimated the ancient wonder to stand nearly 1,500 feet high in comparison to Egypt's Great Pyramid of Giza, which is a mere 480 feet from base to vertex. It remained a closely guarded secret, kept hidden from prying eyes with the international investigation by Chinese authorities. See, I don't really get that. German investigator Hartwig tried to investigate. He was never able to find the Grand Pyramid. Gosman photographed still Hasdorf 1994 book, The White Pyramid. See, 1994 is pretty recent. Detailing his findings of other structures, uncovering in 2000, China recognized that some 400 pyramids in the Shanxi region to the north of Xi'an. Some classified by some as burial mounds. While some of these structures do in fact serve as tombs, others suggest the earliest Chinese pyramids served a more mysterious purpose. Yeah, when I first heard of these about 2 years ago, they were just burial mounds. Now the storyline is that some of them were just covered by earth, but they weren't just mounds of earth. They were covered by earth. So the story has shifted significantly in the last maybe 6 months. So anyway, very much incubating that. I just can't see the Chinese keeping these a secret. I mean, the country is very proud of its accomplishments, its heritage. It doesn't really make sense to me that they would hide these. I think that they would, and I don't see how you could. I mean, there's obviously a giant pyramid there. So, I mean, we have satellites. We have Google Earth. Hello. China does not control Google Earth, last I checked. There's just no way that these would be secret all this time. There's no freaking way. I mean, people were supposedly looking for pyramids in Antarctica. They would also be, I don't know, this is all baloney. I can't imagine China, like, why would they, it's not a shameful thing. Why would they keep it a secret? There'd be no reason. Currently, the pyramid of the Qin Emperor is nearly 250 foot high, but is estimated that when constructed 2,200 years ago, it reached about 380 feet. All right, so there's another one. Let me see if I can find some images. All right, so some of these are fairly obvious. Those are fairly obvious. Huh, what's that? Interesting. There's another one. All right, this is more like what I was seeing like 2 years ago, these ones here. They were just calling them burial mounds at the time. So it sounds like they're kind of changing it now to be that they were buried. They're not there, and they may not be burial mounds. All right, well, these are really obvious here. Anyway, so there definitely were no pyramids in China in my old timeline. You know, granted, they're saying it's newly discovered, but I'm really suspicious of that. Really suspicious. Oh, that one's an interesting one. All right, anyway, so there's that one. That was from Bob Bobertson again. Keeping busy. All right, I'm trucking along. I'm going to keep it under 2 hours today. All right. Another one from Bob. All right, so these goats climb up in these trees. Now, goats were always very dexterous creatures. I think about 5 years ago, I started seeing them in the trees. They're getting more and more into the trees now. But they used to just do it kind of, they didn't have a purpose behind it before when I first saw the images. But now, supposedly, there's this tree called the argon tree, and it has fruits. And the fruits have a nut inside them. And so there's an oil from the nut called the argon oil. And so there's two ways to harvest these, and one is to pick the fruits and peel off the fruit part and get at the nut. But supposedly, in ancient tradition, the way they did it instead was they raised goats. The goats would climb in the trees. They would eat the fruits. Then they would poop out the nut, and the nut would be scraped out from the dirt and then cleaned off, I would assume, and then used to make the oil. I just can't really understand how that's really helping anything. I mean, this tree is not that big. It would be easier to just pick the fruit and have it on the table than to go through the effort of having these goats, protecting them. And then you'd have to make sure they didn't poop in a very large region, because otherwise your argon nuts would be over a 3-acre area of poops, which is a lot bigger area to have to find nuts than just one tree. But the story, weirdly, is that to save labor, they got these goats to like pick the fruits. I don't know. It just sounds really suspicious. And who wants to scrape through poop? I mean, wouldn't you rather just pick it from the tree? I don't know. The whole thing is just weird. But that's the story. I've noticed this timeline just has a lot of weird poop stuff and gross stuff, and this is another example of it. So there you go. I don't know. Some of these I don't even have a comment. Best to avoid those trees for shade. Yep. All right, this is the last one. I don't know if you've all heard, the joke, an L on her forehead stands for loser. Here's the image. Bob was looking at, this is another Bob Bobertson one. And I was looking at it, and it just does not, this hand gesture does not look the same to me. And there's a couple things. I remember peeling all the fingers down. But then that now sticks these fingers way out. This looks too long. The whole hand shape is long. It's hard to make the L now. It's hard to split them. I don't remember doing it like this ever. It was always like this. But that does not look right either. So it's just kind of an observation. The hand, we've talked about that before. Fingers different. The thumb is different. It's hard to make the L shape than it was before, I think. I think that's why they're doing it this way now. But anyway, another kind of a small thing. See what you guys are up to here. Probably not going to stay up too late tonight, because I've got to get up really early in the morning. That's one of the reasons I try to take a nap. Money don't grow on trees, but goats do. Yeah. I don't know, it just seems such an inefficient way. I mean, who would choose that route? I know, I'll let the goats poop it all out. I mean, I can't imagine that those trees provided enough nutrients to really raise a lot of goats. Earth is a Kinder Surprise. Life is like a box of chocolates. Yeah, Simon. Stuff's showing up all the time. Not too cold. Easy for you to say. Living in California, Odin Lush. Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'll tell you, we pay for it though. Literally pay. The rent here, and the taxes are very high. I grew up here, so I'm spoiled and I'm used to it. But you come over, people are shocked at the cost of living around here. Pyramids in Antarctica, silver E55. Last I checked, they saw some pyramid-shaped mountains. I saw some images that weren't wholly convincing. That was a number of years ago. See if there's anything else. I think that's something it does look a little, they look a little more pyramidal than I remember them. These aren't the images I remember seeing. I don't remember these three like this. Interesting. That's not how I remember them looking. Right, I don't think that's one. I think those are still incubating. Have to see how that comes out. I mean, there's definitely pyramids everywhere now. This might be more like what I saw. I don't think I saw a complete top view like that either. Anyways, yeah, who knows? We'll see. I'm sure that it doesn't seem like any, it doesn't seem like many things get naysayed away in this timeline. They just get more weird. So I think we'll see more of that. Malabar squirrel. Yeah, I might as well put that one up. I think I've covered this one way back. That brightly colored squirrel. If you really were watching this one, this guy has changed in the last 2 years. It was there for me 2 years ago. But he's gotten even more bright. He did not have the yellow up the one part of the arm like this for me. The yellow was not as much. He was more like black and reddish for me with only a little yellow underpinnings. What the heck is this thing? Huh. I assume that's real. I don't know. It's hard to tell sometimes. Interesting. Okay. Anyway, back to the Malabar guy. There's more, see, this yellow is kind of the new encroachment. There just wasn't that much yellow. The arms weren't all yellow for me when I first heard of these. So that has changed for me. Yeah, all that yellow. Now, I do remember, like this, there was some yellow under the tail. But it looked more like this, where you just see this and this without the yellow head. So this one continues to change. What's that one? Huh, that guy is weirdly not as bright. Keep an eye on it. It looks like the red on the ears, and there's going to be orange on the face. So this guy continues to change. He's one of the new ME guys that is in progress. From It's Me, Sia. $4 a.m. still here. Yeah, it's only almost 2 a.m. here. I'm going to close it up in the next few minutes, I think. Who gets the idea to poop nuts? Yeah, I just don't get, like, how that's way more convenient and it's gross. I don't know. Suspicious. I think, in the old timeline, they would just... The tree's not that high. They'd just pick them. People weren't that lazy. Like, would you rather pick fruit off a tree or pick nuts out of poop? I mean, really. So I'm putting tiny particles of goat fecal matter in my hair when I use argan oil. Well, supposedly they do it the mechanical process as well, so you don't know which one they harvested it via. Barbara versus Barbara Streisand. It was Barbara Streisand for me. Definitely. Check your pics, Eva. Can you give me more clue? I don't know what pics are we talking about. That happens with coffee also. Supposedly the most expensive coffee in the world. Poop. Yeah, that was an older one. It just seems like that was one of the first ones I'd heard about maybe 5 years ago. This whole thing about stuff tasting better after it's been through the poop is just gross, and it seems to be a real big trend for here. It's like color is crisper and brighter here. Some other people have mentioned that I think Mandela Effect had mentioned that he just noticed at some point that colors seemed a little brighter, especially, was he saying blue? For me, blue is, this was something about a year ago that he mentioned, and I had kind of noticed it. Red, like the eyes are just processing it more strongly or something. It's kind of hard to put my finger on it, though. The bacteria derived from poop in yogurt. No, it's like the bacteria alter yogurt. It's a little bit different, anyways. I mean, fermentation is not the same as it going through a cow, so. Cat poop coffee, yeah. You know, there's so many gross things in this timeline. Walking trees. That one, I don't think I've covered that one. It's an older one. They're not really walking, but they do move slowly over the course of several years. So supposedly they move their roots. Like say it's sunnier over here, they'll lay out more roots on that side, and over the course of years they'll move. I mean, who knows? Maybe they'll start moving faster eventually, but they do have a fair number of plants that can move. You've got Venus flytraps from the old timeline, and they do. It seems like there's been a few new ones, so. I want some of those trees and run around like I'm in the movie Avatar. Yep. I mean, it is really getting like Avatar, some of these places, definitely. Triffids. Okay, I will pass on the triffids. Definitely. My voice is soothing like ASMR. ASMR is another one. I've just heard of that one about 3 years ago. And it ASMR, I'm very suspicious about. What is the history of ASMR? I mean, when was it discovered? I'll tell you, my voice has changed a lot. I notice it. I even just feel it changing. It's getting lower and lower. Let's see what the history of ASMR is. I don't know if everybody knows what ASMR is. Let's hear this description. An experience characterized by static-like tingling sensation on the skin that typically begins on the scalp and moves down the back of the neck and upper spine. And it is triggered by certain sounds. So they actually have videos all over YouTube of the sounds that trigger the feeling. And it's a good feeling, kind of a low-grade euphoria, they're describing it. I don't respond to it very strongly, but I do get a little bit of it. But it does kind of, the more exposure you get, the less you respond. So that's what happens with me, is that I responded pretty good for a while, but now, no, not really. So whispering, certain little clickety noises. All right, 1925 describes something distinctly comparable. See, I thought it was kind of a new thing when I first heard of it. Later I kind of wondered if ASMR is an ME. That's why I'm looking at it now, but I don't know. I'm not really seeing a very clear history of it. I'm wondering if this is going to go back in time. It's going to become a thing that has been around a long time. Because I'm pretty sure it wasn't. You definitely didn't have historical explanations of it. I had looked it up in the wiki, just kind of described it, and somebody wanted to research it. Yeah, it was very newish. There was no 1925 references. Little research has been conducted. Peer-reviewed articles. Okay, see, yeah, there were no peer-reviewed articles when I looked into this. And I did not know about it since 2013, so that's interesting. So I'm going to call it ASMR has some ME, at least some ME characteristics. It's new and it's going backwards in time. So anyway, yeah, ASMR, very suspicious. You can check out the videos on YouTube. They're interesting. And my voice, another ME. It's actually kind of inconvenient in a way because my voice has gotten lower. It doesn't carry as well. And so people are always saying, what? They don't hear me as well as they used to. I used to have more of a voice that really carried. My voice is probably a little nicer now, I would guess, but it does get old when people can't hear me. I also just used to naturally talk loudly, and now I'm kind of loath to talk very loud, and so I overcompensate and I don't talk loud enough sometimes. It's kind of become a problem, and one that I'm not used to. Anyone have a personal Emmy? My name used to be Mrs. JK. Emmy took my K. You're talking about your login name for YouTube? Yeah, I don't. People have said that my login name for Reddit has changed. From my perspective, it hasn't. And unlike YouTube, on Reddit, you can't change it. You're stuck with the one you started with. If you want a new one, then you have to get a whole new account, and then your whole history would change. You can't move your history to a new name. A lot of people say that my name has changed by one digit. So, I mean, it's not an ME for me, but it is for a whole bunch of other people. 2-hour mark reached. All right, yeah, it's time. Yeah, ASMR are new to me, but maybe it's new because it's new. I don't know. Yeah, well, supposedly it's been around, researched in 2013 now. So keep an eye on that one. I think that one's sneaking backwards in time. Your voice sounds the same to me. If there's a danger of Barry White coming on, I'll let you know. Yeah, I don't know. To me, it changes. To me, it keeps. My voice will get scratchy and then it'll drop a few octaves. I'll be, oh, well, my voice is off, but then it doesn't recover completely. I think it finally just got named. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see. You're supposed to listen to ASMR with headphones. Okay, I'll try that. They weren't really saying that before. I'm super ASMR. Well, what can I say? One aspect is good. I just won't go on TV and we'll be fine. ASMR does nothing for me. I'm missing out. Yeah, we'll try it with headphones and try different ones because everybody has different triggers. My eye color has changed from blue to green. Mine has lost a lot of the brown. In my old timeline, they'd say that your eye color could not change. In this timeline, it's fairly well accepted that it can. Eva's voice is lower. Yes, yes, I'm glad somebody sees it. The main problem for me now is people always saying, what? And part of the problem might be that I know a lot of people that are older with bad hearing, but they didn't used to have a problem hearing me. ASMR is amazing. I had that when I was in school. I don't know, was it not long ago when you were in school? Because if it was long ago, then that is interesting. Yeah, no tingling. I only got a little tiny bit. I'll have to try again. It's been a long time since I tried. Sometimes it'll kind of renew a little bit if you haven't tried it a long time. Okay, anyways, I got to get up really early, so I'm not going to get much sleep, so I'm going to have to cut it out pretty soon here. Oh, Jay Emblin, $2 on the super chat. Yay, thank you. Appreciate it. ASMR connects to Emmy by feeling deja vu. You know, I'm one of those people that does not get deja vu. I've never met anybody, but I've never experienced deja vu, so I don't know that one. Anyway, have a great holidays, you guys. Eat lots of good food. Try to be good to the people in your life that are worth it. And take care, and I'll be back next week. This is Eva signing off for Once Upon a Timeline.